Forget about stereotypes.
This car is an essential stepping stone to the 911 success story.
Absolutely. Anything we do is driven by the desire to deliver in terms of performance.
Forget about brand names. Forget about fancy marketing.
What inspires us is passion. It's passion that makes us aim for first, never second.
Forget about intangible things like ethos and lure. And let's just look at features, specification, and performance. At first glance, the Ford Mustang and Porsche 911 look to be extremely different cars. One is front-engined, the other is rear-engined. One is made in America, the other is made in Germany. And one has a base price of $40,000, while the other has a base price of $120,000. But the Ford Mustang and Porsche 911 actually have more things in common than most other cars do. The Mustang has been in production for 57 years, and the 911 has been in production for 58 years, making them two of the longest consecutively produced vehicles in history. Both are amongst the top-selling sports cars in the world. Both are considered to be the most important and influential cars ever made. Both are significant cultural icons. Both have an enormous and passionate following. And when it comes to performance of the current generations of both of these cars, they're surprisingly similar. But one big difference between these two cars is how they and their owners are perceived. And an even more important difference is how these two cars have changed over the past few decades. Since the late 50s, the Porsche 911 has been considered the quintessential sports car for tasteful automotive enthusiasts. It was small, it was light, it was nimble, it had a simple Spartan interior, and most importantly, it had a manual transmission and a naturally aspirated engine. The Mustang, on the other hand, has been perceived to be a heavy, awkward, clunky pony car that could only perform well in a straight line. And because it offered a lot of horsepower for a small price, it often ended up in the hands of immature and irresponsible people. But the reality is that both cars have gone through some extreme changes over the last few years, and they're barely the same cars that they were 10 or 15 years ago. The 911 has gotten huge and heavy. The naturally aspirated engine and manual transmission have both been abandoned, and the simple driving experience has been replaced by a focus on technology. The new Mustang, on the other hand, has held on to everything that automotive enthusiasts love. It's got a naturally aspirated V8 engine, a manual transmission, and a great sounding exhaust. But the performance of the Mustang has been vastly improved over the last few generations.
Very satisfying car to drive.
And with significant advancements in steering, aerodynamics, and suspension, it's gone from pony car to legitimate sports car. And today, the Ford Mustang, depending on trim, can give most sports cars a run for their money. And with many people arguing that the 911 has changed for the worse over the years, and with the Mustang no doubt changing for the better over the years, is the Ford Mustang GT now a better car for enthusiasts than the 911 Carrera? Comparing these two cars seemed like an obvious thing to do, but surprisingly, nobody has done it yet. I scoured the internet looking for a comparison, but not even the biggest automotive publications like Motor Trend, Road and Track, and Car and Driver have done it yet. So this video took a lot more research than expected, but that's what my YouTube channel does. It provides automotive information that you can't find anywhere else. So if you like unique and original reporting on the automotive industry, click below to subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you can be notified about my latest videos. So in our comparison of the Ford Mustang to the 911 Carrera, the first thing we're going to do is remove the names and the appearances of both cars, and just focus on the most important mechanical aspects that make a sports car great. Now we all know that different places report different specs for different cars. So in this comparison, I'm using information from TrueCar, Motor Trend, Ford, and Porsche. From looking at these specs, Car A looks to be a dream car for enthusiasts with a powerful, naturally aspirated V8 engine and a manual transmission, while the specs of Car B are a lot more similar to the 2024 base-level Chevy Camaro. The performance of these two cars are fairly comparable, and with a manual transmission, Car A is nearly as fast as Car B, which is equipped with an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic. That means that if you put an automatic transmission in Car A, it would be faster than Car B in 0 to 60 and quarter-mile testing. But in braking comparisons, Car B definitely outperforms Car A. Now let's listen to the exhaust of these two cars. The winner here is clearly Car A. Today's video about the Mustang GT versus the 911 Carrera is brought to you by Porsche Art Prints by Arc Driver Automotive Photography. These unique Porsche art prints are a great way to improve the aesthetics in any room in your house, and a great way to help support this channel. They feature museum quality printing on heavy duty paper that has a partly glossy and partly matte finish. You can check out the entire collection by clicking on the link in the description below. Unfortunately, no one has released any official lap times for either of these cars. So given the data that's available, the most comparable matchup we can do is the dark horse trim of Car A versus the 2024 Carrera S trim of Car B. The only two lap times published for both cars are the Motor Trend Figure 8 and Thunderhill Park West. The S trim of Car B was exactly 1 second faster on the Motor Trend Figure 8, and the Dark Horse trim of Car A was a fraction of a second faster on Thunderhill Park West. Given that Car A was slightly slower than its counterpart tested here, and Car B is slightly slower than its counterpart tested here, we can conclude that Car A and Car B will have similar lap times. But hopefully someone will publish the official lap times for these cars soon, because I'm very anxious to know how they perform on the track. Now let's take a look at the exterior of these two cars. One is more aggressive and muscular, while the other is more curvaceous and simple. This comparison is challenging because these cars are so different, and both already draw such strong opinions from people that it's hard to compare them from a neutral aspect. I think the best thing to do is look at them from the perspective of their evolutionary design languages, meaning how does the new Mustang look when it's compared to previous Mustangs, and how does the new 911 look when compared to previous 911s? Through this lens, I would say that the Mustang has become a better looking car over the last few years, while the latest 911 does not look as good as previous versions. But on the other hand, the 911 has historically been a much better looking car than the Mustang. So when I look at these cars from an unbiased perspective, I would actually say they look equally good. Now let's take a look at the interior of these two cars. I can't say I like the changes Porsche has made to the interior of the new 911, but that huge and awkwardly placed screen on the dash of the Mustang is just a big eyesore. so I'll have to give this one to the 911. There's another aspect that matters to a lot of sports car people that rarely gets discussed in automotive media, and that is working on your own car. The components in the engine bay of the Ford Mustang are easily accessible by the owner, but for years now, Porsche has prevented their owners from being able to access or even look at the engine of their 911. For me, working on my cars is a big part of the connection I feel with my vehicles. When I look at my cars, I don't just take pride in how beautiful they look, I also take pride in the fact that I am the person who keeps them running. And if I couldn't work on my cars, I feel like my connection to them would be somewhat severed. And if a car company had essentially locked me out of my own engine bay, I would feel like the car doesn't completely belong to me and was partly owned by the dealership, as I would always need to take it there if anything in the engine bay needed to be worked on. Not to mention that this forces you to pay incredibly high maintenance costs to the dealership for things that you might be able to do yourself. So for me, not being able to work on your own car would be a disappointment. I mean, hell, my least popular YouTube video is a song I recorded about the importance of putting your tools away after working on your own car. Now let's talk about price. The 911 has a base price that is 3 times higher than the Mustang GT, and the options for the 911 have gotten incredibly expensive. So while the average new Mustang GT owner leaves the dealership with their new car for under $50,000, the average new 911 Carrera owner leaves the dealership spending closer to $160,000. So this is what it comes down to for me. I am a Porsche person, and I've been a Porsche person since I was about 4 years old. But if I was put into some kind of scenario where I was forced to buy a new car and the only 2 cars I could choose from were a 2025 Ford Mustang GT with a naturally aspirated V8 and a manual transmission, or a 2025 911 with a small turbocharged engine and an automatic transmission, I would no doubt choose the Mustang. Even if both cars were the same price, I would still choose the Mustang. Thanks for watching, and if you would like to hear my song about the importance of putting your tools away after working on your car, you can click here. Or if you would rather watch a video about an upcoming Porsche that will have a manual transmission and a naturally aspirated engine, click here. And for more automotive content that you cannot find anywhere else, click here to subscribe to this channel.